Okay, so we have started.
Okay, great. Let's see, it is July 8th, 6:05 PM. I called the meeting to order. Do a quick roll call. This is Amir Mulafagi.
Andy Udall.
Jeff Gunderson, present.
All right, we got the three of us today. And our second item on the agenda is approval of the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. to approve.
I'll second.
Andy?
Yep, aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right, the ayes have it. Any public comments? I don't think we have any
No, I didn't
public
receive any.
comments. Okay. Board member reports and comments.
I don't have anything, I don't think.
I know, I've been kind of out of the fray here, so
Yeah.
I don't have anything either.
Yeah.
It was interesting to catch up on it.
No, we have plenty of good updates. Fortunately, didn't see Larky on the parade this 4th of July. That was but other than that, no big updates. My book club initiative is still ongoing. We had our first meeting, and I would say so Andy, just for context, we're kind of kicking around, wouldn't it be cool to have like the new library have something unique with the program that's like new, fresh, kind of exciting for the community. And I was saying, like, this somewhat unrelated, but we kicking up like a little book club, similar concept to how we do some of the rec sports programs, where you have a parent coach. In this case, like we got 6 girls, pick a book, meet once a week, divide up the book, kind of go through the content, have like little and I thought, if we kind of built that program with a bunch of parents, and we kind of bring all the kids together, at some point, and kept different prizes. You could have like low competition,
That's cool.
Anyway, I just thought, like, I feel like for some of the kids I coach, it's so much of it has to do with like social,
Yeah.
element of it, and being together with their buddies. And if we can bring that to reading, then
I think that's great.
so anyway, that's
Could I
Yeah.
ask, where do you meet at?
we meet at Mountain.
Okay,
Yeah, so the kids all have membership there, so we just gather around in front of in the lobby area, and just kind of, do it that way. Though if
You
we,
do it once a week?
yeah, that's the and just meet on Mondays. This last time we had like took the girls out after we went to the shack, had like a little,
I love it.
just
Go
like,
get pizza or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Talk about the book.
that's it. Yeah.
Great.
But that's my report. So
Okay.
I'll keep you guys updated. I mean, it's and we can get we can get the NPS score from the kids after. Then it's done, see how they rate it. All right, so next up, we have the director's oral report.
okay, I'll start off with a little bad news, a little bit,
Oh.
start. Luca Collier resigned as library aide June 29th. He's going off to college. He was at the desk quite frequently when we were open, so we're trying to figure out how to approach that. He also did our artwork, like you might see downstairs for our summer reading promotion. It's on the whiteboard. He did a lot of the hand-drawn art, but we wish him well, and he's off to better things.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
But we don't know if we can fill positions now with the budget. So he was working about 20 hours a week,
Right.
and like I said, the front desk. And then we're also going to lose Jake Williams, who's one of our aides. He's going to leave for college August 20th. So again, wishing all these folks well, and we should be able to manage, but it's sad.
Yeah.
We're the state and out, and then here's a few resources we're going to lose. We're going to lose the state park passes December 31st. That was a state funded initiative, so we won't have those. And then we're losing quite a few resources that'll go away throughout August and September. I don't think a lot of Larkspur residents were using them. They were like teaching resources, Alexander Street, Learning Express. They were kind of more learning type resources, more in an equity sense. So I don't think it'll be a big impact for us, but we'll see. No, we also lost the Wall Street Journal. No one seemed to notice. I think Tiburon's gonna get it. There was more of a Tiburon resource,
Right.
because as a consortium, we decided not to get it, but I think most of the users were in Tiburon.
Okay.
Oh, or Belvedere, Tiburon.
Okay,
We did apply for a state grant for stargazing
Yeah.
kits. So we wanted, this will be kind of a kit that comes with a telescope, seat, star, maps. The furnished through Big Five. I think we should be able to get it pretty easily, and then we'll put that with our other library of things. I'll keep you updated on that. And if we don't, that's probably wouldn't cost enough. I can see the Friends or Foundation supporting it. We've had successful stargazing programs out here in the past.
nice.
So. And just a couple things, just so you're aware of, we had to cancel Sing and Stomp July 20th, is that's our monthly program for the youngest children to learn singing and stomping and vocabulary skills. So she had to cancel the 20th because of a family event, but we'll keep it going. And then secondly, it's not on our summer reading kind of flyer here, but we had to add a second slime workshop because the first one was so full and the demand was there, and it was crazy down there. It was like 40 people, we have to take all the furniture out, put in all new stuff. And so just the demand, we had to add another one. So we're gonna have another one of those July 24th.
It's really cool.
And the friends were, our friends have a good budget, so it's about $450. So we added another program. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
So we're getting the word out on that, but it isn't on our main flyer.
Sounds like the word is out.
Yeah. I think,
And it was slime, you said?
yeah, where you take kind of
Yeah.
glue and you create like a
Oh,
slime ball, so it's
nice.
mostly
Love that stuff.
8, 9, 10-year-olds
Yeah.
primarily, but
Oh, yeah.
it's the
Oh,
whole,
that's yeah,
there, whole.
several years.
They
It's like
teach them how to make it, basically?
Yeah, teach them how to make it, and then they get to go home with it. Too,
It's like-
they get their own
it's like
slime.
a sour
Oh,
cream.
that's nuts.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting too. I thought, probably 80% of the participants were female. Where, like 10 years ago, doing these lectures of libraries, 80% would have been male.
I'm telling you, the girls
So-
love the slime. I remember it from school.
Yeah,
That's a great way to get people in a library
yeah,
for that age demographic.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think it shows how we have to, it's weird because we have to balance something that's popular, then we don't have the space for it, and then how you manage, if you're overly popular, which is a good problem.
Yep.
But it was just, I
Yeah,
have looked
we
forward.
talked about we talked about that because we were like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if like these reach and all the when we're talking about metrics, like, okay,
Yeah.
let's really grow. It's like, well, what can we really handle in terms of volume?
And-
Um, yeah, that's
I mean,
great.
'cause
That's
the new,
great.
like, the new space, you could do all that outside.
Yeah, and then that it would have the meeting room with,
Yeah.
you could do indoor, outdoor space too,
That's
so you could
really
have
cool.
wherever people are
Right.
comfortable.
That's so cool.
So that'll be,
Yeah.
I think we
love
could,
that, just getting people in the door,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, I think we could do something, especially at the new library, like that every day. I mean, if we have funds, and I think also too, we heard a lot from folks, it was the new newsletter, they saw it. So signups went up there, and we have also a hook and craft program, and that double participation, and we actually have a waiting list for that program. We had to buy a bunch more supplies. So that seems to be an effective reach.
Love it. Nice
So,
work.
so that's kind of, I think, the end of my report there.
Well, as I mentioned, when I walked in, I was really impressed with all those flyers that were up downstairs and everything that's going on, and it's great work. I mean, that's really solid, and it does sort of fit that model of like what happens next, in 2 years. Like, so that's gotta keep doing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm competitive, but I am. We're doing a lot more programs actually this summer in the Corte Madero, which is open a lot more than us, has a lot more staff, has a lot more space if you looked. We're doing, they're having construction and they will close, so
Yeah.
they have a little bit of that, but even some of our other partner libraries, we're kind of at a high level, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Build that momentum.
Yeah.
For, you know, the new space.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to business items. We got probably the most we've ever had since my time, on this board. Which is great. So first up, qualitative and quantitative analysis. So to provide some context on this, we had this conversation a while back, right around when we were thinking about the year, like, hey, how do we measure success? And because I think initially we kind of said, hey, let's make communication like a number one how, like what we
yeah.
want to really focus in on. But then it was like, hey, how do we know it's working? Like, what's the qualitative, quantitative? So then Jonathan had some great feedback that he gave in terms of the way he would approach measuring this. And then Damon kind of took that and was going to run with it and come back with like a proposed sort of structure on that.
Love it.
Yeah, and so for qualitative, and again, some of this, I'm still kind of figuring out exactly what it is. So for me, it's still a little bit of a discussion, and also it's a little bit about what is possible. And so for like qualitative, I've kind of determined there are certain things we do qualitatively. And so the ones, what we can do qualitatively is kind of the immediate patron feedback. It's a small library. So we kind of know everyone who's coming in and out. So there's a certain amount.
Yeah, there's dialogue.
Yeah. I struggle how to capture that, you know, a little bit. That's where, you know, getting maybe more input would be good, because we kind of know that this display is good, this one was bad. You kind of get that kind of sense from people just by talking to them.
Yeah.
Like feedback in the community. I think when, you know, walking down the street, or like when we were at the Bon Air Fair, I was surprised at this, 5 people tell me our website was bad.
Wow.
Which that's a good qualitative.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and 5, it's not just one person.
Good data point. Yeah.
So I kind of know it's not the greatest website, because it's not really designed for libraries, and there are issues we'd heard other people before, but something that's a good thing. Another one, just in general feedback from officials or stakeholders. So when the friends say something, you say something, the foundation, again, that's something. We do a Polko survey by the city. I'm not sure if you know the Polko survey the city does yearly. It's a pretty precise, formal survey that goes to residents, and they ask really specific questions about quality of life.
Okay.
It's a little more scientific than just a general survey, because you can benchmark each year to the responses, and then also benchmark to other communities. And so library is usually 80 to 82 in that amount. It's a little quantitative, you know, metric too, but it's for me a little qualitative because it gets people talking about the library. So that one's kind of both. So those are kind of the ones I've kind of have now. And for, you know, future, we are going to do some sort of community survey, not like Polko, but something probably like a Survey Monkey, and kind of write it. What programs are you interested in? What's your collection? Those type of questions. Send it out, have that out. I do want to kind of do that after the building starts its building process, so it doesn't convolute the two. And then also kind of, as we talked before, like focus groups, and maybe real detailed interviews with surveys of people like maybe, you know, or something like that, and then bringing that data back and then theme it out a little bit, probably figuring out what that is would probably be. So those are some qualitative thoughts. Again, I still kind of struggle how to put that into like a formal document. With quantitative, it's, I think, a little bit more easy. We have our circulation data for physical, so we can pull those numbers. We have an archaic computer system, but you can pull those, and that's similar to what I've shared with you before. It takes about 2 hours to do 1 month's report, and then we could drill deeper, but it just takes a little bit more time. And we also have a tool called Collection HQ, which gives us DEI information on our collection and how that is being served comparatively. And it also like helps us weed. We purchased that through MarinNet. Our ebook state report, we do a state report yearly. And so that's probably like that's what the state wants. So that's where we provide our basic stats of circulation programs. And that's probably something that could easily be turned into a public document or something like with Flash, it shows this is how many people came to programs for children, for teens, how many ebooks we served, so many computers we have, this was our Wi-Fi speed, all that sort of thing. And we have our summer reading programs in attendance, so we have people sign up for summer reading, so we start to learn about that. We have various databases we can get with. We also have now, kind of bleeds into the communication report, but the city does a monthly communication update. And so now with our profile of the library, they've added the library in with the city. So the city and then the library. So it's like our Instagram, Facebook, interaction. The MailChimp newsletter is probably the big thing. So we have all that. Our budget is probably, something we can kind of quantify and how that's a quantitative measure, because then we can start to say, hours per person worked or whatever sort of thing we could tie to money to usage. Not that you always want to do that, that's not necessarily the best thing. And we're pretty heavily reliant on volunteers for our library our size. A lot of teens who get their time, so they do a lot of tasks for us, like shelf books, get the book cart, check in. We had 3 at the slime program. So we have like those kind of numbers. And so like again, kind of I'd be interested if in your input for any other quantitative data. With the new library, we'll probably be able to get more quantitative data. Like here, we don't have a door count, which is kind of, again, unusual, but it'd be interesting to kind of see your peak times or how many people, or some door count systems can pick out like adults, teens, and children's based on height, and facial recognition can do certain things with that to let you know kind of who's coming in. So,
Next level.
yeah. So now we just kind of we have an idea if we're busy or not, what to do. But I would be interested in kind of this is the I know Jonathan isn't here, but if that's
Our metric guru.
Yeah.
I mean, my quick reaction to that is like, in many ways, and I think if I can remember Jonathan's framework, is it like a lot of this is what are we trying to do in areas that we think is important for the community, and having them be the voice of whether we're doing well or not, right? Like giving them kind of the microphone to validate whether we've done the stuff we're supposed to do. So I think there's the kind of bread and butter stuff, like you were talking about, like their experience. A lot of people who use the library services for, checking out books, is like, hey, is my book available? Can I get it quickly? Is it easy to check in and out? That's like a bread and butter metric. We should just be able to quantify, like, hey, we're really good at the main element of pairing people up with their books fast, right? Like that's feels like a core metric for the library. And then where else are we investing our time? And then how do we measure the success of those? I read, I don't know if you guys read this, but right after the pandemic, there was this great article written about the comeback from Barnes and Noble, and like how they did this insane turnaround, and they're thriving now. And the CEO's like, look, it was actually pretty easy. Like what I did was we empowered the local stores and gave them autonomy. And it used to be the bookstore's main sort of grip on how they ran was the publishers had the control over what went on display, and figuring out what they were gonna market. But they flipped it where now we said we hired people who were just phenomenally in love with books. Like they love reading, like,
Mhm.
and then we told them, okay, you decide what's gonna go
What's really.
and onto these tables that people are coming in and checking out, right? You stack them up, you set the flow. And he's like, it was contagious. Like these people's passion and love for reading and book transferred, and all of a sudden, everything started taking off. And I think in some ways, like we have this ability, like you're hiring these, experts who love reading and have a passion for reading to come in and bring that service to the community. So if you don't know what books you want and you're coming into the library, then a main part of our service deliverable is, do we have an expert, someone passionate and able to inspire someone to kind of grab a book, right? And find a book that they're going to enjoy reading. So that's another potential dimension. So I feel like, and I don't want to get like super complicated, but if we distill that down to like core services, core programs, and then how do we measure the success of these things? Like where are we spending our energy and time? Hiring, spending money, right? Like, and then the way we can kind of qualitative measure those would be, and we could, walk, crawl, walk, run type thing.
Yeah, it's like, those staff picks and understand that local reading habits of people and local library concerns. One thing, qualitative stuff is difficult to figure out. Like we'd always think, well, circulation's up, but is anybody reading these? Are they just checking them out and bringing them back? How do we know? Should we quiz them? And what do we do with these students? But I was thinking with those volunteers that you have, and it's an age group. If they're coming from high school, it'd be nice to do exit interviews with them and ask them, like, what'd you think, and whatever. And you probably get that sense from them anyway as they're wandering around and doing things. But that'd be a good audience to get some, qualitative feedback from, and like, ideas from that probably they're timid to offer up their suggestions sometimes, but pry it out of them somehow.
And what, after the year coming out of COVID, one thing we're gonna try to do, because one of our librarians, Jess, is pretty enthusiastic about working with teens in particular. So we're gonna try a teen advisory council or group here, and that's where basically some of those teens you were just talking about come in, and then they tell us what they're interested in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really makes us successful, is if we could have a core group of folks, whatever their interest, maybe it's the TAM, maybe it's parents, tell us what the interest is, because it changes, so this teen cohort may be different than the one 2 years ago of what they're interested in. So actually, that's where we're getting a lot of those folks are. The people who come here at the teen level are really into books, into reading, into crafts, into library culture, for whatever that would be.
I think you have enough. We have a lot that you just named that are kind of metrics that you can quantify. I mean, I like the idea of just more of that, like person to person qualitative, like even if you had one of those people that's helping out, like if they had some time to walk around the library and ask a few questions and, take some notes, or, just something where you get that, to your point, like you can definitely feel it and see it, just the vibe kind of, right? But to just be able to engage with people and like, oh, like, what are the resources you're looking for that we don't have, or even if you go to the TAM, after you do, what is it, they do like the TED Talks up there. If you were able to like engage with people and, oh, we had a couple questions on, other resources you're looking for, just now that you have them engaged, be able to converse and maybe pick up some nuggets.
Yeah, what are we missing?
Yeah.
I mean, we want to hear what we did well.
Yeah.
What are
What do you
lacking?
miss?
What should we be focusing in on?
No, I love that you got feedback that some people didn't like the webpage. Just think, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't just tell us that, and don't be kind necessarily, but, and also dismiss ones that like that person is just the, outlier crank.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about that.
That's why those themes are good. So if you don't want to just take the one loud, regular,
Yeah,
and we have really good people, so we don't have that person, but you know, that type of person could over dominate what we think. And we have started a few initiatives like the Seed Library. Has been popular, but it was kind of more our idea. You know, other libraries are doing it, and we've had people who were engaged in it. And there's someone who's donating seeds who really doesn't probably use the library much, except for that. But so it's kind, so I don't know how we like would have reached that person to know to start a seed library too. So there's part of this is trying things
Yeah.
and not seeing what sticks, and if it doesn't stick, move on, you know, let it go easily. I think the one other thing I didn't mention is part of qualitative. I believe the city this fiscal year, you know, our fiscal year, July 1st, we started, so we just started. We'll be having a strategic planning consultant similar to what the rec department used. And they would probably, if they did the rec, not, so sometime this fiscal year, basically. And basically they would from the rec, we have more people than rec, but they interviewed key stakeholders. They'd probably interview each board member for like an hour or two and then come back with themes. And this isn't really the general public, but that's another area where I forgot to mention that could be some qualitative data about.
So this is, sorry, what's the scope of these guys?
So the city sporadically for departments does strategic planning. And there's this agency where basically all the cities join within Marin County and throughout the Bay Area. And they have HR consultants they contract with. And so recently the rec department went through a process where, and we actually did this as a city in March, where we did strategic planning in that sense, where I got interviewed for an hour, and then we came back and other department heads were interviewed and then themed it. And then we had kind of a 1-day retreat. We came up with goals and objectives out of that. And so I think when talking to kind of Dan and Shannon, our plan for the library would be to do that sometime this fiscal year. The rec department did it last fiscal year. I haven't seen the final report yet, but basically they're interviewing folks, coming up with themes, and then trying to bring everyone together to develop certain goals and objectives.
Okay.
Hasn't been signed on the dotted line, but that I think that would be another potential one for the qualitative. That just kind of again, more talking to people, more theming things out. And then also knowing kind of what we can control, what we can kind of change.
I mean, I think a great way to know whether we have a good set of like metrics is just like if you were to write the sentence, you know, this year was a success because, you know, we were able to deliver on these things that we could measure quantitatively, or this was the qualitative feedback we've gotten. I think we've got something, you know, just like that, like you got to be able to finish that sentence, and it's got to fit into like where we spend our time and money. Then it's like a good guiding light.
For like, if I were to do that like last year or this year, I think that would be that, just one, be launching the newsletter, and then the amount of usage exceeded expectations. Cause we're getting on the 2 we've sent out, we're in the 44% open rate, and other library newsletters tend to be in the 30s. Here, so that's been one. I think hiring our staff has been, because now we're kind of fully staffed, is the folks who are leaving are part-timers, and they were kind of filling in for them. And then I think it's increasing our programming usage, the number we offer and the amount of people attending.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
my reaction to that is like there's like the end thing, you know, that we're trying to really impact, and then there's like the means to the end. And I think we should like be flexible with the means and then be really clear about kind of what it is that we hope to get out of the final delivery. So like hiring to me is like obviously like it's like, okay, did we make the right hires? You know, what do we expect? Or what do we want that kind of product to be that we deliver to the community? So I mean, I think we should keep this as an ongoing dialogue.
Or
and
I had one suggestion, maybe, would there be interest in a subcommittee to work with me on this and to meet outside the boardroom?
Yeah,
Like maybe two people, and then we could bring it back,
totally.
cause we
That's a great
might
idea.
be able
Yeah.
to, I don't know, just again, kind of
Yeah.
idea,
I
this.
mean, I know Jonathan would want to be in that subcommittee, but he's not here.
Yeah.
I want to volunteer. for
And we
this.
could talk about more what it looks like, but that was kind of one idea I
Yeah.
had where we could kind of get in the weeds maybe
Yeah.
a little bit. Cause I think this is all good, but it also helps
Yeah,
with where to go and how to. Cause I think our long-term vision, it will be, obviously is to open the new library and kind of increase usually in case and have more people engage with us. And how does that
yeah.
fit in,
I'm
so,
happy to volunteer for this one, to serve on the committee if my fellow
Yeah.
trustees
Yeah,
will.
Sure.
and we could talk what that looks like, I think it could be Zoom,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not a large commitment.
So this is an easy trip for me. So
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
happy to come and huddle.
And it might be easier to, in that kind of sense, I'm thinking, to bounce off ideas
Great,
too.
let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll follow up
Okay.
separately. Next item, portfolio approach to programming. Do you want to set the context on this one before we?
I struggle when I went back and
Yeah.
I couldn't hear the meeting. I struggle with the term portfolio. So if I could turn it back to you a little bit.
I can,
And I have a few ideas
Yeah.
about what portfolio would be, but I might be on the wrong.
I think
track
the discussion from the last meeting, was, you have these sort of like, a set of programs that are in similar sort of like time and scope, right? How big they are, how much crowd to be expected to attract. And so the one comment was, instead of having like 40, equal sized programs, do you want to think about like a portfolio approach where you have a sampling of like small, medium, and maybe like one big program that we want to run? And as a way of, essentially, instead of like being stretched thin where we can't take on big, ambitious kind of projects, we, have smaller, kind of like our base, like key programs sustain, right? And then we come up with like create bandwidth to go and think more ambitiously about other small, like a larger programs that we can fund and support.
And when you use the term program,
Yeah,
because can mean a few different things in library. So like story time's a program,
exactly.
summer reading's a program,
Arts and
our
crafts.
computer services are a program.
Yeah,
You have some libraries have a literacy program. We have a so
Yeah.
like what in program is it? Are you kind of thinking more like where things people come to, or more of a
I
like,
think I'm a little bit kind of borrowing from some of like Armel's and others like inputs, and obviously it's harder when we have
and
trustees
and-
that are,
Yeah.
but as I look back, I think it was meant to be a thought around how, do we want to have a kind of a full list of programs and be kind of deliberate and intentional about, what we want to continue And then whether there's a argument for trying to kind of think about more like larger, bigger, splashy programs we want to run, but we would only be able to do if we decommission and kind of stop doing some of the existing programs. I think it was a way of like,
But-
can we think of it more kind of thematically, like you were talking about?
But would it be, and maybe with Armel not here, also was it for more reporting retrospective? Or is it more for planning?
Planning. I think it was planning of
Okay.
like, hey, we have 2 years to get into this new library. Exciting, people are excited to be there. And it's like, what are the base, like, set of programs that we're like, hey, we wanna offer these as like core set of things we wanna do.
Don't we kind of already have a portfolio approach though, if we have literacy, summer reading, right? Like, I think a portfolio is from a financial background, right, of like your asset allocation within your portfolio. So there you have your kids reading program, you have your summer reading out in Dark Park, right? So those are all like little pieces of the portfolio, and it just, I guess you gotta look at it and say, all right, does this piece make sense, and do we have resources to continue to grow it, right?
Totally.
So I think it's almost like the way we have it set up, you have kind of all these silos, right? That all kind of come together. Maybe I'm misinterpreting, or you're saying that maybe within each of those programs, you have to think of it as like, what's kind of small scale that we can continue to add? Do we have to eliminate this that costs time and money that we're not, right? Is that kind of
I
what
think
you're
it was
saying?
initially it was just like baselining on seeing the portfolio, like seeing the map and like, hey, here's our
What oh, I don't know, sorry, I jumped in, I don't know if Jeff was it. Because I was thinking portfolio a little more retrospective, like this is.
Oh.
Like, this is my portfolio if like you're applying for a job or, something in that sense.
yeah.
And so I had some like, we have like a summer reading program, we have TAM, we have adult speakers. And we have like teen advisory committees, like those could be part of a portfolio, and like portfolio often I think are age-related programs.
Yeah.
And for us, some programs are, again, these are the programs people are coming to generally. Some are easy in terms of time. A lot of times they're by age is how we divide it up,
Right.
Some programs are pretty easy where we'll basically get the speaker, they know their friends, and they it just kind of happens. There's no cost. And there's other programs where we have our yearly allocation from the friends. So we begin to plan, these types of programs. Some have a low cost, like a lot of the crafts we do are just supplies and staff time. The big puppet shows, which get hundreds of people, that's probably $400 or $500. But actually isn't that much time. It's more of a money so it's their staff and money cost. I could probably maybe a future, like develop what our, maybe, again, this is just a suggestion, and make sure I'm on the right track, and I know all our people aren't here, but maybe I could try to develop what I would say our portfolio is now. As
Yeah.
a
I think that's a great
as a
place to
first,
start.
and it would probably help me to,
Yeah.
like, if I think about like our summer reading, in some ways, like this is the whole program is a large part of our portfolio.
Totally. And it's a big one.
Yeah, it's like a 33%, I don't know what we'd say.
Yeah.
And then part of that large program, we have these smaller programs where we have kids have fun. Some of this, we just want people to enjoy life. But then we also have the aspect of this where we're encouraging kids to read, we're giving away books, so you're having there's people who participate in summer reading who just come to this. There's other people who are bringing in their bingo cards.
Right.
There's other kids who just kind of wander in, there. But like that would be a big asset. And then like a second asset might be our TAM program where we do book delivery.
Totally.
I
think that for what it's worth, I think this conversation started with, do we want to take everything we've got right now into the new library? and I think this was, cause I remember this topic came right after, Jeff and Armel, were part of a subcommittee that went to see the new library design presented. And so it kind of came out of that, like all this excitement about a physical. Do we want to kind of roll in with the same stuff we've got? Do we want something new, different, to bring in? And that's how this, I think, started. So it was like, if we have the current portfolio and we're actually like, this is awesome, let's just like take this with us, or is there an opportunity to refresh or have some kind of branding, marketing, packaging to make the new library announcement kind of a more exciting new kind of facet.
I think it would be a good exercise, and I think it would, basically, you would just be saying, rather than use the word portfolio, the types of programs that we offer, right? That's our portfolio, is essentially all those different types of programs. And then within that, you can do a little bit more analysis of like, hey, this part of the portfolio, this program translates well to the new building. I don't think that would be that hard to do. I mean,
Yeah,
what
I
do
think,
you-
I think types, I was getting a little stuck on
I would say,
yeah.
let's just delete
Okay,
portfolio.
and I like the
Yeah,
idea of the,
yeah.
when you start talking out the concept of portfolio, like asset allocation.
I do like
But-
the idea
but
of thematically grouping them though, in some way that allows us to just see, because the idea of portfolio was, are we like one dimensionally like over investing in one?
But the types
No.
of programs you could easily group thematically.
Right,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes,
That would
that
be
makes
very-
sense.
To see that all on
Yeah.
a piece of paper
Right.
or a spreadsheet or whatever would be able to say, and you could then overlay each type of program based on the data that you already said you track from a program,
That seems more concise.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's the
That
data
gives
that you
you
have,
clarity.
is
Yeah,
the
that's
programming
easy.
data.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's the data that would be great to show, if we had like a big pie chart of our portfolio or types
Yeah.
of programs.
Yeah.
And you had data usage on there, that would be really cool to be able to show the public too.
Yeah, cause I think that's something we haven't done well in Larkspur, is to be able to give visual communication tools that people understand really easily.
I mean,
And
that
there's
would
a
be,
lot now,
you
there's
could
a
put
lot
that
of,
in the newsletter, like programming update. And you have the usage and a nice grab at Jonathan, he can do good PowerPoint,
Yeah.
I can't. but-
actually, that's a good newsletter, summer, we should do summer reading.
Yeah.
Summary, who participated, what was
Yeah.
our, cause actually it isn't that hard, I mean, with the tools these days. That's a good idea.
Lots of,
And
yeah.
some of that's seasonal too, within that portfolio or within that,
Mhm.
set of things you're doing too.
And I do think it could help, just as an initial look, then kind of go, are you spending too much time with seniors and maybe a little more teens? And then maybe it isn't all numbers, that's where I think the qualitative comes in, where teens are gonna have lower numbers, but we're maybe working with them a little more,
Totally.
because they have to have a little push and help. So
So I think this,
I'll work on a visual as a
Asset
to do.
allocation chart, I love it.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
could do,
this is
yeah, I
in
could, I have a
your
visual in my head,
wheelhouse.
I'm getting into details already, but
Yeah, yeah,
I could picture that.
that's great.
Yeah, thanks for that on the portfolio. Just
I think,
explaining it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, I think we got to the intent behind the word. So I think that ties actually right into the next business item, which is how do we make library services more unique and ambitious? And I think this actually was directly on, we're gonna have this amazing building
Mhm.
that's gonna be a standout among like any library in the nearby, like, vicinity of our community here, and it's like, it's gonna be a pretty big attraction, I think, not just in Columbia, Larkspur, but probably from, cities nearby. And so the element of this was, how do we have a layer of potential differentiated service that kind of matches the excitement and freshness of this building?
And I remember I was able to get a little bit more on these notes, and I know we had an initial discussion about what makes Larkspur unique, and I know we had some history was a big part of
Yeah.
what we were talking about. the new library will have an archive room.
Yeah.
I think we had a popular history talk. There's aspects of, and that's part of small part of our portfolio.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of history
He's liking
programs there.
portfolio now,
Yeah.
I think.
Just
See,
help
we
you
go to
out.
3%.
It's coming back.
Um, so I think there was a lot there. There's also, I mean, just within, so there was that, we had that kind of discussion. And then when I went back later and thought about what's unique in Larkspur, beyond the history seems like the big thing here, but there also seems to be in Larkspur, well, a lot of baseball interest, I should say.
There is-
That's
no, it's
obviously
true.
one, a lot of
But,
like
but I was saying,
kid
like,
sports.
like, think of it this way, like, why is there such a big draw? It's like Joe Bag's like Field of Dreams, right? Like that space is like, I can't think of a more precious piece of land dedicated to baseball like anywhere. And that's as sweet and charming as Joe Bag is. And so Larkspur Quarter Madera, baseball rules, right? And it's a huge part because of that space. And so we're about to have the similar dimension from the library.
Yeah.
That's as another
Mhm.
beautiful part of this, community. And it's like,
I also think it's just like, you're using like the field over there, Joe Wag is kind of a microcosm of Larkspur as a whole, right?
Right.
And Corte Madera, it's this like cute, quaint village with this unbelievable landscape, like
Yeah.
Right.
surrounding it, right? So I think the history of Larkspur, the landscape and all of that tying into Tam and that we're right at the foot of this mountain, I think that's all very, excuse me, relevant, right?
totally, it fits.
I think it fits with this building, which by the way, you
Yeah.
look up and it's like,
Yeah.
right, you have these great views and.
But part of what Joe Bag, of course, like if it just sat there empty, alone, and didn't have a
Oh.
coach and didn't have, it's like, it would
Kids
just,
are-
right, it'd
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
be
it's those
another
people, for
space,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
But now it's like kids, like my kids they could spend all day, every weekend at Joe Bag if they could, like, they just love being there.
Yeah.
And I think we just want to create that special sentiment of like when they go to the library, it's another happy spot to land, as a member of the community, just like the same way you feel when you walk into Joe Bag, right? That same vibe you get, the same energy you get, that's unique to us, right? But yeah, it's exactly right. It's because it's, what it's attached to, that view, Tam, but you're gonna get the same view from the library.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's this like concept of history and community and like nature all
beauty.
together, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, sense of place and that kind of fertile ground for,
Yeah.
whether it's ideas or just bringing community together. But yeah, that new library that's exactly the spirit you want now.
And I think the new library too will be good for introverts and extroverts.
Yeah.
We're gonna
definitely.
have like the kids' little tucked places where they can read, which is really popular here.
yeah,
And there's the quiet room for adults, but we're also having spaces where people are meeting large groups. So I think we're gonna have positive memories for those who like to come alone, and then also for those who are coming for events.
That
Right.
indoor,
And-
outdoor aspect of it, it's
And-
it's the same thing.
Being inspired by Tam when you're in the quiet room and reading.
yeah. I just,
So
my
that-
thing is like, what can we find? I think this was the
Yeah.
big discussion point. It's got like, how can we make it ours? And like, has a really, like, this is our, like, this really library belongs in Larkspur, right? Like, what's that kind of key factor?
Uh,
Right, of the personality of the library, and then within that, I think there was like an ambition around, services that is more localized. And by the way, I love your direction. If you're like, look, we can kind of bring this focus and depth on, history, and that's kind of part of this, that somehow we can build into the character, and what will be the attraction point? Like, how will people get excited, feel it, nurture it, and love it, be part of it? And I think anything that can be a draw for the community, you know, the same way Joe Wag is, I think that's like, you know,
I mean, I mean, you can donate to the fund for all the landscaping. 'Cause I think that's part of it, right? I honestly do think like the way that that is landscaped and looks is gonna be very inviting and warm and natural from like, right, that whole nature feel that I mentioned. So I think like the just way that it's designed is gonna naturally give you a sense of that. Because to your point, you have the introvert and extrovert aspect of, you know, you could have kids that go up and, you know, grab ice cream or whatever, and then they walk down there and they sit outside, right?
Yeah.
Like, or you grab your coffee and you take a stroll over there and you're hanging out with friends, and I think like it is gonna be more like a gathering space with that outdoor element to it.
so, I mean, if you take Andy's point, like that's an example of, is that our uniqueness? Like, is it the indoor outdoor flow of the library? That's
I
like,
think
that's,
that's a huge part of
and
it.
if that's, because
To
you
me.
can build on that and say, okay, well,
Like,
what are
think
the
of- like,
services that really takes advantage of that?
Like,
Right?
think of the original designs and the idea, I remember a long time we were having a like, what you have in like a town square, right? Remember with, I forget the term. You know, you're outside and like the flow of kind of inside and outside, like, I think that's a big part of it. And I think it's, the design gives you that kind of utilization of the nature part of it.
Yeah.
And
Does that make sense? I'm kind of
Oh,
all over
Oh,
the place
no,
here.
No, it-
exactly.
yeah.
It's California indoor outdoor architecture anyway, and all those architects did do that with this structure too, so.
And there's three distinct ones, so we could be having like something going on for children's and adults simultaneously, they don't interfere with each other. That's what I'm excited. But I think having the indoor outdoor space, there's no library that quite will have this level of indoor outdoor engagement that we do. We'll have 3 sliding doors. And one to children's, one to the 2 meeting rooms.
But I think what you're getting at is like, and this is what I feel, is you want this to be like a gathering spot
Yes.
for younger kids, teenagers, just like what we have at Joe Wagner Field. Kids, like my son rides his bike, takes some money, goes to the snack shack and runs around with his buddies for 4 hours,
Yeah.
right? Is like the idea of, you have kids that maybe they have a little school project and they go meet there and they
And
get
it
a little
bounces from
room.
there and they go to
And
the
they,
library.
then, exactly,
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
you know, they go outside and hang around with their buddies and run around in the
Stargazing at night.
courtyard, like,
Right,
so it's like,
That-
how do you wanna make sure
totally.
that how we're positioning it and marketing it is, that it is a gathering spot, so to speak.
Totally.
A
And I
safe
think-
place, right?
And so the ambition
yeah.
and the
But I-
uniqueness can just build on that. If that's an area we wanna really make the center point of like, hey, we want to be here, so how do we create that investment as a library to have resources and programs to support that to come to life? Right?
And I think there's other passive things we can do to have people encourage us to come hang out.
Right.
'Cause I think this will be just part of their, the one by the schools. It's on a more of a natural transportation pathway.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
for bikes.
Yep.
Cars and having all that. I think that's what I'm attracted to this new library is it's gonna be a hangout spot.
Yeah,
I think people are gonna come gather. It's not really gonna be about people picking up their books. Still, that's still gonna go on, obviously. But it's really about different groups of people coming at different times and
Totally.
then leaving.
Yeah.
You know, they have their moment,
Yeah.
they're happy, then they move on to their other part of their life.
I like that word you use, fresh. You know, I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what will be, that's what it'll be, so.
Yeah. Okay, I think, look,
I think this is an ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
another,
it is.
another
yeah,
one
let's
in,
keep this and,
Etched
the-
in my brain, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna, I mean, we're all gonna think about it more now. 'cause
Yeah.
it's-
I mean, I
it's
really
fun.
I like the direction, I mean, Andy's point around, look, the indoor, outdoor is, you know, an opportunity to really focus on something that like uniquely is ours.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
if we can match that up with something that like you experience when you land there, that is connected to the library, right? And so it doesn't feel like you're just in the outside of like some random, like place. No, you're at the library. And there's something cool here that you can experience and you can enjoy being at the library the same way you enjoy going to Joe Wag,
Yeah.
right? And of course, like it's like I used, oh, they go to Snack Shack. Of course, they first like load up on some candy and stuff, but then they're hanging out with their buddies, right? And then they're taking in some baseball, and they're like falling in love with the sport, and it all sort of like feeds off one another, but they're all important. The Snack Shack's like a big part of it. Like it's like, but you can't take one without the other. The social element, the food, the game, it all sort of comes together, and that's why I think marrying that physical space with the other, intangibles and things we can do will make a big difference.
And, again, I like your word of safe, because we want to make sure everyone knows this is really safe
Yep.
for people. Maybe that's some in our marketing, and as we start to explain what it is, I think most people assume it's safe, but there are a few things how we position it, how the community thinks of it, of people who don't really, may not even come there.
Yeah.
What's that space about?
For what it's worth, I mean, I know there was already a bunch of ask and that was shut down around, having coffee, right, available, like through initially the city shut down, like having like Equator come in and set up shop, but like, we talked about, having the new coffee trucks, having like a food truck, coffee truck or other. I just think if we want to be there as the hangout spot, there's got to be, kind of like this sort of thinking outside the box of how we can make this potentially an opportunity to experience, feed all the senses type of thing.
And they could be event driven too, as things happen. And, I think of that stargazing thing at nighttime down there. I mean, it'll be beautiful, to do something like that.
And we can
Those things outdoors.
bring, snacks, and I mean, even though it's maybe not certain events like stargazing, we could bring.
Yeah, but
Just that
The
was
food truck thing, like if you could do like a coffee truck every once in a while,
once
or
in a while,
like
Yeah.
the shaved ice thing, when you're doing like an activity.
the ice cream truck.
Yeah, that
Especially
truck
like on
rolls in.
Saturday,
Yeah.
or if you do
Like,
something regular,
when you're-
Saturday
if you're
morning.
doing it, it would draw people in, and I'm totally with you. It's just like, it really, yeah.
I mean, Kona Ice, there's a similar company actually, there's currently someone I know was like working on the license from an East Coast company that has the same concept of Kona Ice, but like for this crazy, like there's an ice, like ice cream truck shows up and it's like one of the best ice cream you've ever had. It's like bananas right now, like in terms of its growth in East Coast. So they're trying to bring it to California, and if we have that, you have Kona, you have coffee, you have so many things you can tap into. There's so many like artisanal food, but it's just like one of those things where if we can get behind it, and it's like that doesn't exist anywhere else. You can't get that in Corte Madera, Tiburon, any area where you go to the library. And it's like there's these like flavors of different things you can taste, like awesome building with fresh outdoor space, and go and get your favorite book and just kind of tuck in and read. I mean, I just think it'll be insane, so anyway, just something to really think about, like what is preventing us from, if these are trucks that will kind of like, the way the traditional food trucks work, you have to guarantee certain revenue for them to be there. And so part of it is like, what is that, how is that within kind of anything we could fund, right? And Snack Shack at Joe Wag's all volunteer based. It's like volunteer run, right? Like, so another consideration is, can we, think of something that we could potentially support within the community?
What do you sell at the Snack Shack? Is it prepackaged?
Yeah, candy, no, they do like pretzels in microwave,
Shaved-
popcorn in microwave, shaped like
Shaved ice,
scones.
Oh,
We open the barbecue up sometimes and sell burgers and hot dogs.
All volunteer.
mm. how do you
It's
get the
actually
food? Oh,
No?
We
No.
pay kids.
Oh, okay.
How do you get the product? I might be getting in the weeds here, like
Costco.
Costco, you, basically the volunteers go
Mhm.
get it and then
Yeah, we have
whatever
a,
revenue
I
goes
mean,
back,
it's,
it's
there-
kind of,
it's a volunteer run, the people that run it, we have multiple parents that run it. And then there's kids, so literally 14-year-olds to call it 18, pay them minimal and tips. So it's also like a way we provide jobs for kids.
experience, yeah. Okay.
Food for
Yeah,
thought.
there's up.
Yeah, cause that's, that might be more digestible than a full coffee cart or
Yeah.
cafe with the, you know.
Right.
Library or something like that.
Yeah,
A cafe,
Like-
like similar to what they have at Book Passage, would kill it. Kill it.
oh, yeah,
City could make money,
yeah,
but that's a whole other.
yeah.
Yeah,
let's-
But I think it's a thing to, again, on the ambition, side, if we wanna
I've
go.
wanted to open a deli in this town because you cannot get an East Coast deli sandwich in this entire town. And like, I literally am looking for a space to, at some point, open a deli. I will
Yeah.
open a deli
Yeah.
there. I don't even wanna make money. I just wanna provide a service
But,
That's a
being able to
great
get a
idea.
deli sandwich.
yeah, yeah, I know, I remember the deli conversation.
Okay.
But I mean, like, this is, I know we're going like outside potential, things that are much more complex and beyond. But I do think if there's a way that as a community, we can say, look, what is the constraints, right? Like, what are the constraints that we have to work within? Are there ways to get past some of the constraints to truly enter into this place of indoor, outdoor, place where people gather, place where there will be food and fun and, all these other things that complement the library services? Do we need that as an element? Because if we feel like that's a necessary element for this space to become what we hope it will become, then it's like, well, what's preventing us from doing that? And can we rally enough support to create it and get past the limitations there?
it's great that the architecture of this building has stimulated this conversation to do this kind of thing too. Cause you realize, wow, it
Well, I
does
mean, I'm just like,
provide
look,
that space.
we're talking about, like,
Yeah.
we got, the community has kind of come in and put in millions of dollars to go
Yeah,
put this building up, like, what's preventing us from like going the last mile here on some of the things that'll make it really stand out, right?
this is,
I would just, real quick, I was gonna say, the other thing I noticed here is bicycling is
Uh-huh.
kind of another thing. People currently don't really bicycle here, but I see going over there,
Yeah.
uh-huh,
a huge bicycle
Yeah.
influx.
it's
Cause it's on the
Perfect.
trail and everything.
right on
too,
the
so
bike
I'm-
trail.
How that'll fit into, and we'll have bike parking, but
I think there'll be a lot of bikes parked there.
Yeah,
yeah, I'd like to get like a bike repair station there, or when I was at the county once, we did a ride from San Anselmo to Fairfax.
Okay.
And had a Saturday where it was a bike repair at the end and
Nice.
hired someone to,
yeah.
anyway, so I think that was another
Yes.
thing I just wanted
Yeah, I
Program.
mean,
to kind
that's
of mention.
that's a great,
Yeah,
yeah, I love
Something
like that.
unique.
I love that because that's again another unique dimension. That's another one of those Larkspur appropriate
Mhm.
pieces, like take care of the bikers, like there's a lot of them out there.
There's a lot,
All right,
okay.
moving on to the September support group meeting with the library board. Getting closer.
So, yeah, so I didn't know if we wanted, like, how to, I can't remember, is Armel or someone said you wanted to write a formal letter, or you wanted me to be like the conduit to the groups to invite them? Or what?
This is the formal meeting here, correct? Not the social.
Yeah, this would be, I think what we were thinking, a formal meeting, and then each group would say, again, maybe this is what we
Right.
kind of discuss and clarify. But like if they're doing like a small presentation, or if there's anything you want them to hit. Also, I've asked the Library Foundation a couple times, I haven't got a response yet.
Right.
anyway, those
So,
are just a couple,
Okay.
I
couple
think
things.
that this was the order of this was that everybody did an element of reporting. So like in this case, like we as a group would present, here's what we've been up to and how we're putting your money to work. Element of like annual report back to our foundations. And then they would each respectively talk about their priorities and now how, they've been executing on those and then
I think it's a
everybody
great
would have
idea.
it,
I know we talked about this
Yeah.
like the last time I was here.
yeah.
You
That
want me to
gets everybody.
facilitate having them come, or do you wanna?
I mean, it'd be great if you can.
You
Yeah,
want
I
me
think it
to-
would just be
Okay.
like an
Yeah,
email to the different groups, be like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
we're
We're having
inviting
this-
you to our September
Yep.
meeting. We'd love to have all library support groups in attendance to discuss what everyone's up to and kind of check in, and thanks so much for your partnership.
Okay,
and
Kind
I would,
of-
I would,
kind
I
of
would
loose.
bracket like buckets, it looks an annual event, right? So
Yeah.
like, we're trying to,
Our first annual.
yeah.
annual, something
Yeah.
we'd
Fall
strive
check-in.
for in the fall, every
Right.
fall to
Yeah,
Like,
have a
this is like,
report.
we have like a deliverable to you, right? You go and
Okay.
raise all this money for us,
fall check-in.
right? It's like, yeah, let us
Yeah.
let us tell you what we've done with your money. And then each of them kind of talk about their priorities and, they sort of do a similar readout and then then we get to talk about it, interact, and everybody's on the same
Perfect.
page,
Okay. And maybe, I'm guessing not, but I'm just double checking because it's the first one.
Yeah.
If they have multiple members come,
The more the merrier.
more, okay,
The more the merrier.
Yeah.
okay.
Like, let's fill up the
Yeah.
spot.
Okay, so. So I think I'll reach out to the groups and kind of, that's, I think what you said is kind of what I was thinking, and we kind of doing,
Like,
nothing
I haven't-
overly like.
honestly, I haven't met, I've heard there's, the Friends have like a refresh board.
Mhm.
There's like a really, like an awesome group of people that are now coming in doing these exciting things. They came in with these like different swags that have been, they've been using to like get more participation. They've done really cool stuff with like, business sponsorships, like having these like cool flyers that are all around.
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
I wanna meet, I wanna meet these
yeah,
people, and like hear from
Oh,
them and
Yeah.
see what they're up to. I think we just learn so much if we have a chance to all be together.
Yeah, because you're kind of all siloed now, there's,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
Anything to
I'll-
encourage their enthusiasm would be great.
okay, yeah. So,
Okay, so
okay,
you'll
I'll-
help us.
I'll kind
Okay.
of, I'll do another kind of reminder, we'll do that as the meet, that's kind of what I was thinking the meeting
Great.
would be, but thanks for
Yeah, of course.
doing that.
All right, so library board, agenda development.
This one was for me,
Yeah.
I was wondering if when I feel kind of weird, like I do this agenda and I send it out.
Yeah.
I don't know if like if the chair or like a subcommittee, like if I could, before I send it to the group,
Yeah.
like meet or send it to
At
a
this,
person and just say, is this kind of right, or is this what your group wants to, because I feel somewhat,
for the
so
school
the-
board, it's, the superintendent does it with the president, where they co-develop the agenda and then send it out.
oh,
Yeah, I'm
but-
happy to follow the same protocol. that
okay,
others
it
do.
would help me, I don't know,
Yeah.
but maybe help you hopefully too, make just.
Yeah.
And,
Happy-
and so I
yeah.
could maybe send, and what I was thinking, what we did at the county, and we could maybe work on this offline individually, but.
Yeah.
Like we met the 2 Fridays before like this meeting, so
Yeah.
it would have been not last Friday, but the Friday before. And did a Zoom or in-person meeting. I think ours is, if we could do it via email though, and try to have that and just,
Great.
so that's good. I'll email you to start.
Awesome.
I mean, I think you're capturing all the stuff we put on future agenda
Yeah.
items,
Mhm.
like, but I totally get it, it would help you just feel good about, do I have everything
Right,
we need?
and even
Yeah.
clarifying like what portfolio.
Yeah, that was
like,
kind of what
it's
helped
like,
me.
what is that,
I think that's good.
yes, yeah, happy to do that.
And part of the agenda comes from when Tony's taken the minutes.
Yeah,
She lists the the first 3 items were kind of verbatim with how she caught them.
yeah,
So just making sure,
totally.
No, okay, I'll
This
do
is,
that.
this is easy.
Okay.
Easy to do.
okay, that sounds good.
Playaways.
So I just wanted to highlight, we added a new format, as you know, CDs have kind of gone
Yeah.
away. So we bought, instead of CDs, these playaways.
Yeah,
About a month ago, and basically they're audiobooks for families and children that are already preset, so that you don't
we
have
used those
screens.
a few years ago. Did we discontinue them and bring them back?
No, all other libraries had them.
Oh, we must have gotten them
We're the
from-
last one
Oh, I
to
see.
get it.
Okay,
So.
just don't lose one. We
Yeah.
lost one, had to pay $70.
Oh, did you? Yeah, you probably got from Quarterbear, we got these. Well, we got these a month ago, and we got 25 just to start. And I was like, is it old technology? 22 of the 25 were out. I was like worried I couldn't bring one.
My
to the meeting
daughters
today.
loved this, like we went on a road trip and they're awesome.
So, and I think this is something, like we were talking before, engagement.
Yeah.
Do people want, is this what people want? I didn't know. I thought it
Yeah.
might be, we found out they did, but it'd be nice to just know with the group. Like, I didn't know you.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Already.
Yeah.
So-
Sage,
Stats
Sage,
and
every
those.
time Sage has fond memories.
Oh.
I mean, she
Wow.
took them on road trips all the time.
New
and,
part of the portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that's new, and I think we might start buying
Yeah.
like other newer things besides books sometimes.
I
but-
think that's
great.
I love it.
So I think that was kind of all at the playaway, just.
That's
to
great.
get your attention.
Love it. New library update.
So I think the big thing here is, we're meeting weekly with the contractor, kind of updating. The fire department had some feedback on how they wanted the parking lot and some small like adjustments, so there's some small tweaks going on. They're also kind of moving ahead with some of the small permitting, like contacting PG&E about how to get power for the construction and where the modular will be, the trailer that will do it.
Yeah.
I think right now, you always hate to say times, but right now I think the goal is to go to the planning commission in September
Okay.
and that when we go to the planning commission, we want kind of the package as tight and as perfect as, as we're going. And so that's kind of the current goal,
Okay.
I think would be September, and they meet on the second and fourth Tuesdays at 7. So I'll let you know. as soon
Okay,
as-
so the final date, it hasn't changed in terms of expected open, like when we'd be in service.
No, and they say they should be able to build it in 1 year. That's what
Okay.
they said, with, you never know with rain and,
Yeah.
all that. So we're still
I
kind
hear
of within that
constructions
range.
always end on time.
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
Earlier, and then
Personal experience.
Yeah.
and they're always cost less too.
Right, yeah, always under budget, always on time. Okay, all right, great.
So that's kind of the update, and I'll definitely let the board know if there's some movement on this is the planning date, or
Right.
Great.
if it aligned, it'd be interesting if we had our meeting with the subgroups, and then the
Right.
next day was the planning commission meeting, which is
Yeah.
plausible.
All right,
You see the one going up at the College Marin,
Yeah,
if you've driven by there on College Avenue, yet,
That's
but they're moving along, but it's
great.
huge.
I think we'll have a big advantage moving also, because that one they're building on the spot, it was.
Yeah,
Well, we'll be able to just kind of move in. I think our move's
Uh-huh.
gonna be easier to get open,
right,
so.
nice.
get everybody to check out books and return them over there.
So we have our long-standing business item, communications update.
I kind of already said the big thing was, was with we're in the newsletter now for the
Mhm.
city one is tracking us. And that our last newsletter that went out still had a 43% open rate and only 80 unsubscribes.
Right.
So we had about 3,000 people who are reading it. So that's kind of our big communication, I think, for the summer, or big update, I would say.
Great.
Good.
Any comments,
I
questions?
could probably,
Sounds
I
good.
could also maybe when the board, when we get this, I don't know. I could share this kind of information with you with our Instagram. That's what the city's pulling together. I could maybe just forward that to the library board when we send that out. Cause that'll have our MailChimp and then our social media stats in one. And the city pulls that together. With someone. This was our And then you can kind of compare to the cities. This was our, that was the newsletter, that's the library. That was our last MailChimp update.
Is that this one?
That one's, let's see, I think that one's the city MailChimp.
Alright.
And that's the library
Yeah,
MailChimp.
pretty good.
And so
Open rate 56%.
I think we're gonna keep it monthly for the moment, and then
What's the unsubscribe rate on there? You see that? That's not bad.
that's our second one too, so. And we are hearing just stuff, people coming in the library, I saw in your newsletter, you know.
I'm telling you.
I do want to make it a little more engaging, it's more programs now, so we do want to do like a few profiles or maybe, you know, this. And now we have like, now that we have this done, we have like a system of, you know, just cut and paste from Canva and it. So putting the programs, we finally figured all that out.
All right,
So,
thank you very much. Future agenda items, anything that we want to add? I mean, I think we have a few things that are gonna continue on to be discussion points.
I like having the communications up. I like having.
you want me just to send this to you when I get it?
Yeah,
I think,
that'd be
because I
great.
think you'll get it without
Yeah.
context, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just.
Yeah.
you know,
I think having
numbers.
that updated is
Yeah.
good,
That's great.
because I like the communication.
Okay,
Okay, so I don't think we have any new things to add for the future agenda items. I think we have enough business
Yeah.
items to continue,
Yeah.
probably. Next meeting date,
I don't think I'm here.
next one,
Not New England?
On that cruise.
nice. Neither am I.
no
I'm
escape.
excited for the
I
landscape
have-
in Alaska though.
My stomach can't handle most boat
That would be the-
adventures.
12th, right?
If we did the August meeting would be the 12th.
Okay, I'm here. It's on.
Are you here, Jeff?
Yes, I'm good
Yeah.
as well.
So we'll
Okay, yeah.
tentatively plan the 12th and then I'll see, I would guess Armel or Jonathan might be available too
Yeah.
to get a quorum.
I'm back and stuff. I'll be here for some.
We can confirm when we get closer.
Get
to-
closer.
Yeah.
And then I'll probably reach out to you
Yes,
around August 1st or 2nd for the agenda.
great. And then anytime to,
It's-
talk about the analytics stuff you wanted to, the
Okay,
metrics,
Okay.
things.
just to reach out,
We
okay,
can start huddling on that anytime you want,
perfect,
between now and then.
okay.
Yeah, this is really good. Damon, thank you. This is
Okay.
like, and just the ability to get into a rhythm and do this kind of, we really went for like a long time not having this sort of continuity from a ability to meet and make progress.
Yeah,
So it's been a
right.
big
Great input.
progress. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Want me to-
And just
Yeah.
learning, not living here.
Oh,
I
yes,
need-
please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
I'll second.
Aye. All right, thank you,
okay,
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
New library will have air conditioning that's better than here.
Ooh, that's.
I'm telling you, I think that a little cafe.
A game changer. I mean, I walked over to, I was walking, Harry's, you know, the,